I'll give you an overview. There's two uniformed officers in parks. One are park rangers. They wear the smoking bear hat. They're like the federal park rangers. They're normally in the natural areas, so the big parks like Pelham Bay, McCormick, parks that have streams and forests and ponds, that type of thing. So they're like in the backwoods. Right? They have enforcement powers. They're police officers. They can write summonses. They can make arrests. But they're primarily, the rangers are primarily educators. They lead the tours, do conservation work, they work with kids, they work with groups, they run the nature centers, right? But they're also law enforcement officers. So that's the every park ranger. And we have the park enforcement patrol officer, you're probably more familiar with, known as PEP. You'll find them in all of the playgrounds, the heavily congested areas, the non-backwoods stuff. And they do law enforcement like 80% of their job. They do some education. They wear a Stetson hat or a baseball cap in the summer. They carry nightstick, handcuffs, flashlights, a big belt. Those two units have the same powers as a police officer, right? So they can make arrests, they can write summonses. They're unarmed though. That's the park's philosophy. Our main mission is to enforce park rules and regulations. So we're not going after the index crime, the murder, rape, robbery, stuff that the NYCdog does. We enforce all of the park rules and regulations, and some of the health code and some of the sanitation code. However, our guys do make felony arrests to capture illegal dumpers. We do, if there's a burglary or robbery happening, we do apprehend those suspects. So they're trained very similar manner to NYPD. Now, we're a small force, so there's only like about 210 to 20 of the park enforcement patrol officers around the city. Right, there's only about 40 of the urban park rangers in the backwoods, so it's a small force compared to the 40,000 that are in NYPD. So we're not good at that emergency response. So like if something's happening in your dog run at this moment, call to get someone dispatched there, because they could be coming from the other side of the borough. They're on mobile patrol. Right, so they might be coming from a vehicle, so it'll take a while to get there. What we're very good at, though, to combat this is taking the intelligence we get from the group. So if you have a pattern of a problem, so like if you have a dog walker, a professional dog walker coming into your run, and you know he's there Monday through Friday between 12 and 1, to give us that type of information, and then we dispatch our officers to be there at that time to observe that condition and correct it. So we're very good at responding to patterns of problems. And there's a couple of ways you can get in touch with us. You can call 311. Right? Let them know that you have an enforcement problem in the park, as long as it's not an immediate threat, because they'll immediately transfer you to NYPD and 911 system. But if you have, like, people not picking up the canine waste, whatever the issue is, you can call in the 311. That stuff all gets routed to my office, and we disseminate it to the different borough captains. If you do have something that's going on right now and you want us to respond, it's likely that we can. It might just take a little while. I'll give you a phone number to call. It's our Central Communications office, which is 24 hours a day. The number there is 646-613-1386. And I'll put it on the board so we can get it. So 646-613-1386. If you call that number and say you have, I don't know, dog fight condition or something that's going on, they'll dispatch a park enforcement patrol over the air to come to that park. If you have a raccoon in there that's sick, they'll dispatch a park ranger to come to the park. And they will come, but the response time is not immediate. So that's who we are and what we can do. There were some questions about the rules for the dog runs, right? So the parks has come up with like 10 general rules for the dog runs, and they should have a sign similar to this posted at your dog run. It says Park Dog Run. Right? And if you don't, we can get these installed by the local park manager. And these rules can be enforced by the park enforcement patrol officer, by the park rangers, by any parks employee. So even though the general maintenance person doesn't have law enforcement or can't write a summons, they can enforce the rules. They can tell people who are in the dog run to abide by this stuff. And if they don't, a law enforcement officer can issue a summons or do other actions. So any employee of the parks is empowered to enforce rules.
So some of those rules are kind of like judgment calls. The aggressive dogs.
Yeah.
So do the officers, it's at their judgment whether or not to believe someone says, listen, that dog's aggressive, but at that moment the dog's with its heels up and, you know.
One of the things for our officers that we have to observe the violation.
Okay.
So we have to come there and see that the dog's out of control. That's not even a sign rule, that's like a general parks rule. It's in the city's administrative code that the dog has to be under your control. Right, so even if it's off leash.
Mike, can I just say something? Sure. This isn't so much a question, just a comment. I know that when things go wrong in a dog park, it's impossible to reach out to your park enforcement police. They simply can't get there in time. And many of those incidents are not incidents that somebody can really mitigate. It just exacerbates the situation. But it would be kind of cool if park enforcement police maybe had the general knowledge to say, if there's a disagreement, both parties should just leave the run until their dogs settle down.
Right. That's actually in the dog rule sign. It says,
That doesn't necessarily always happen.
Right.
Most PEP officers, I don't even know if they've been trained or know that, like, just send people on the way, quietly tell them, let your dog settle down, and
come back later.
then you come back later.
Catherine from Cooper Park in Lansford. I have two questions. If we have our own rules that we've added to parks, do you also enforce that? And what's ECB's relationship with you in the parks?
All of our summonses that we write, the park rules and regulations, the returnable to the Environmental Control Board, that's ECB, or the returnable to criminal court. All of the park rules are unclassified misdemeanors, except for a few. Higher. So we can go to either one.
Hi, Karen Glazer.
I think there was a second. And then the other question was, if we add rules to our dog, are those also enforceable, or are they just?
You know, if you added rules, you need to, I guess send that stuff to me. When the runs were created, initially the local dog groups did make their own rules, but then the local dog groups enforced them. So now that we have like the official park sign with the park logo, these are rules that our park commissioners agreed that we should enforce.
We have the official sign, but we have more.
Your additional rules, I'm not sure that we can enforce.
Our manager added them to our sign.
Depends on what they are.
Yeah, we need to know like what they are, and then take them off your sign and just put them in front of our officials. Because if it's good for your dog run, it's probably good for a lot of dogs.
I can't remember, is there a maximum amount of dogs brought in by one person?
Yeah, there is on this. It says a maximum of 3 dogs per person.
My name is Andrew Smith. I'm with Jay Hood up in Washington Heights. It seems like rules and regulations is a really hard thing to enforce, but it's much easier to enforce if we can each establish a sense of community. And I feel like the way to do that is through events like Fort Tryon does Dunkin' Donuts and coffee on the first Sunday of every month. Maybe do that twice a month. Maybe on 5 o'clock on Fridays have another gathering where rules can be established. I think the way to do it is to really just get everybody involved in a way that's not about rules and regulations, but it's more about community, getting to know each other. Start a bulletin board with a picture of everybody's dog with the owner so people can start to learn each other's names. Last night we hosted a big party at our house with just people that we've met at the dog run over the last 2 weeks. We discussed all these issues. I feel like if we can somehow remove it about rules and regulations and make it more about community and fun, then everything else will resolve itself.